Imagine a time long before the internet, before travel blogs, and even before printed guidebooks. How would an adventurous traveler know what to see? The answer comes from the ancient Greeks and Romans. They were some of the first tourists, exploring the vast lands around the Mediterranean Sea. As they journeyed, they began to compile lists of the most incredible must-see structures they encountered. These weren't just buildings, they were masterpieces of human ingenuity and ambition. This list became known as the Seven Wonders of the Ancient World, a kind of ultimate bucket list for anyone with a thirst for adventure and a sense of wonder. It was their version of a 5-star review, pointing others toward the most breathtaking sights their world had to offer. What connects these 7 incredible places? It's all about location, location, location. All of the wonders were built around the Mediterranean basin, in areas that were part of the Hellenistic, or Greek-influenced world. This includes modern-day Egypt, Greece, Turkey, and Iraq. Think of it as a grand tour of the most advanced and powerful civilizations of the time. These structures weren't just impressive for their size, they were symbols of wealth, power, religious devotion, and incredible artistic skill. They represented the pinnacle of what humans could achieve with the technology of their era, from massive stone pyramids to intricate bronze statues that seemed to touch the sky. For a very brief moment in history, it's believed that all 7 of these magnificent wonders existed at the same time. This window was incredibly short, lasting only about 60 years. During this golden period, a traveler with enough time and resources could have theoretically embarked on an epic journey to witness all of them. They could have stood in awe before the towering lighthouse of Alexandria, then sailed to see the Colossus of Rhodes guarding its harbor, and continued on to marvel at the other architectural giants. This fleeting period is part of what makes the list so special. It captures a snapshot of a world filled with monumental achievements that for the most part have since vanished. Today the list of the 7 wonders serves as a fascinating portal into the past. It's a mystery that beckons explorers and historians alike, challenging us to piece together the stories of these lost marvels. Only one of the original 7, the Great Pyramid of Giza, has managed to withstand the relentless forces of time, earthquakes, and human conflict. The other 6 have crumbled into dust, been swallowed by the earth, or been recycled into new structures, leaving behind only legends, scattered ruins, and endless questions. Our journey today is to travel back in time, to explore these wonders one by one and uncover the secrets they still hold. Our first stop is in the deserts of Egypt, at a site that needs no introduction. The Great Pyramid of Giza is the oldest and, remarkably, the only one of the 7 wonders still standing today. Built around 2560 BC, this colossal structure was constructed as a tomb for the powerful pharaoh Khufu. For nearly 3,800 years, it held the title of the tallest man-made structure on Earth, a record that stood until the Lincoln Cathedral was completed in England in the 14th century. Its sheer scale is almost impossible to comprehend. It's made of an estimated 2.3 million stone blocks, some weighing as much as 80 tons, all cut and moved without the aid of modern machinery. The construction of the Great Pyramid is one of history's greatest engineering puzzles. Herodotus, the ancient Greek historian, wrote that it took 100,000 men 20 years to build, but modern archaeologists believe the workforce was much smaller, perhaps around 14,000 skilled laborers working in shifts over a decade. These weren't slaves, as is often depicted in movies, but respected workers who were housed, fed, and even given medical care. How they managed to lift massive stone blocks to such great heights remains a subject of intense debate. Theories range from long, straight ramps to spiral ramps that wrapped around the pyramid as it grew taller, but no definitive proof has ever been found. Beneath its towering exterior, the Great Pyramid holds a network of chambers and passageways, including the King's Chamber, the Queen's Chamber, and an unfinished subterranean chamber. But here's the mystery. Despite being designed as Pharaoh Khufu's final resting place, his mummy and treasures have never been discovered inside. The sarcophagus in the King's Chamber was found empty. Was the pyramid looted in antiquity, its treasures stolen thousands of years ago? Or was the pharaoh buried elsewhere, with the pyramid serving as a massive decoy or a symbolic monument? This question continues to baffle Egyptologists and treasure hunters to this day. Today, the Great Pyramid of Giza stands as a powerful symbol of ancient Egypt's ingenuity and endurance. It has weathered sandstorms, invasions, and the relentless passage of millennia. Visitors from around the world flock to see it, to touch its ancient stones, and to feel the weight of over 4,500 years of history. It serves as a permanent physical link to the world of the Seven Wonders, a silent giant that has outlasted all its legendary counterparts. While the other wonders have faded into memory, the Great Pyramid remains, challenging us to unlock the secrets it still keeps hidden within its massive stone heart. Next on our journey, we travel to the sun-baked lands of ancient Mesopotamia, in what is now modern-day Iraq, in search of the most enigmatic wonder of all, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. According to ancient writers, this was a botanical paradise, a man-made mountain of lush greenery rising from the arid plains. It was described as a series of tiered terraces, like a giant green staircase, filled with exotic trees, fragrant flowers, and cascading waterfalls. The gardens were said to have been built by King Nebuchadnezzar II around 600 BC. The romantic story goes that he created this spectacular oasis for his wife, Amytis, who missed the green hills and mountains of her homeland, Media. What made the Hanging Gardens so special was the incredible feat of engineering required to keep them alive. In the scorching heat of Babylon, maintaining such a vibrant garden would have been a monumental task. Ancient texts describe a complex irrigation system, possibly using a device similar to an Archimedes screw or a chain pump, to lift water from the nearby Euphrates River to the highest terraces. This water would then flow down through the different levels, watering the plants and creating the beautiful waterfalls that were said to be a hallmark of the gardens. Imagine the sight, a lush green mountain blooming in the middle of a dusty, flat city. But here lies the greatest mystery of the Hanging Gardens. Did they even exist? Despite the detailed descriptions from Greek and Roman writers, there is a stunning lack of physical evidence. Archaeologists have excavated the ancient city of Babylon extensively, but they have found no definitive ruins that match the descriptions of the gardens. Furthermore, there are no Babylonian records, no cuneiform tablets from Nebuchadnezzar's time, that mention this supposed masterpiece of his reign. This has led many historians and scholars to question whether the gardens were a real place or simply a poetic invention, a beautiful story that grew more elaborate with each retelling. An intriguing alternative theory suggests the gardens were real, but they weren't in Babylon at all. Some scholars propose that the ancient writers confused Babylon with the Assyrian capital of Nineveh. The Assyrian king Sennacherib, who lived about a century before Nebuchadnezzar, was a known master builder who boasted of constructing a magnificent palace and a wonder for all peoples with an elaborate garden and a sophisticated water screw system. It's possible that tales of Sennacherib's gardens in Nineveh were later misattributed to the more famous city of Babylon. Whether a Babylonian reality or an Assyrian masterpiece, the Hanging Gardens have been lost to time, leaving us with nothing but a tantalizing mirage of a lost paradise. Our expedition now takes us to the coast of modern-day Turkey, to the ancient Greek city of Ephesus. Here once stood a temple so magnificent that it was considered one of the most sacred and beautiful places in the ancient world, the Temple of Artemis. Artemis was the Greek goddess of the hunt, the wilderness, and wild animals, and this temple was her grand earthly home. The original structure was built around 550 BC, funded by the wealthy King Croesus of Lydia. It was a marvel of Greek architecture, constructed almost entirely of marble and decorated with fine sculptures and artworks by the most famous artists of the day. The temple's sheer size and splendor were what made it a wonder. It was more than double the size of the Parthenon in Athens, measuring approximately 425 feet long and 225 feet wide. It was supported by over 127 towering marble columns, each standing about 60 feet high. Unlike simple smooth columns, many of these were intricately carved with mythological scenes at their bases. Inside stood a grand statue of Artemis, though this depiction was likely a more Anatolian mother goddess figure, adorned with multiple breast-like ornaments symbolizing fertility. The temple was not just a place of worship, it was also a bustling marketplace and a safe haven, a bank where merchants could deposit their fortunes. One of the most dramatic chapters in the temple's history is its destruction. On the night of July 21, 356 BC, a man named Herostratus, seeking eternal fame, set the temple on fire. He succeeded in burning the magnificent wooden roof, causing immense damage. The Ephesians were so outraged that they made it a crime to even speak his name, but his story survived through the writings of historians. Legend has it that on the very same night Herostratus destroyed the temple, Alexander the Great was born. This led to the story that Artemis was too busy attending Alexander's birth to save her own temple. The Temple of Artemis was rebuilt on an even grander scale, but its final demise came with the rise of Christianity. In 401 AD, it was torn down by a mob led by St. John Chrysostom, as the old pagan religions were being suppressed. Over the centuries, floods and earthquakes buried the ruins, and its marble was scavenged for other buildings. For a long time, its exact location was lost. It wasn't until the 1860s that an expedition sponsored by the British Museum finally rediscovered the site. Today, all that remains is a marshy field with a single, lonely column, reconstructed from fragments, a quiet testament to the glory of the magnificent temple that once stood there. We now travel to Olympia, Greece, the birthplace of the Olympic Games. Here, in a grand temple dedicated to the King of the Gods, sat one of the most awe-inspiring artistic creations of the ancient world, the statue of Zeus, completed around 435 BC by the master sculptor Phidias, who had previously created the magnificent statue of Athena for the Parthenon. This was no ordinary sculpture. It was a colossal 40-foot-tall representation of Zeus seated on an elaborate throne. The statue was so large that it barely fit inside the temple. Visitors described feeling that if Zeus were to stand up, his head would crash through the roof. The statue was a masterpiece of chryselephantine sculpture, a technique that involved using ivory and gold over a wooden framework. Zeus's skin was carved from gleaming white ivory, while his robes, beard and hair were fashioned from sheets of pure gold. In his right hand, he held a small statue of Nike, the goddess of victory, and in his left, a scepter topped with an eagle. His throne was just as impressive, made of cedar wood and decorated with ebony, ivory, gold, and precious stones, featuring intricate carvings of mythological figures and scenes from epic battles. The statue was not just a work of art, it was a powerful symbol of divine authority that left all who saw it speechless. The mystery surrounding the statue of Zeus is its ultimate fate. For over 800 years, it was one of the most revered objects in the Greek world. Athletes competing in the Olympic Games would make offerings to it, and travelers from far and wide came to marvel at its divine presence. However, as the Roman Empire adopted Christianity, the old pagan gods fell out of favor. The Olympic Games were banned in 393 AD, and the Temple of Zeus was abandoned and fell into disrepair. What happened to the giant statue is a matter of historical debate. One account suggests it was destroyed along with the temple in a fire in the 5th century AD. Another, more tantalizing theory claims that the statue was saved from the temple's destruction. A wealthy Greek named Lausus supposedly had the statue carefully disassembled, transported to Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, and reassembled in his private palace alongside other famous pagan sculptures. According to this story, the statue enjoyed a second life for several decades until it was finally lost in a great fire that swept through the palace in 475 AD. No physical trace of the statue has ever been found, only its description in ancient texts and images on old coins. Phidias's workshop was discovered in Olympia in the 1950s, filled with tools and molds used to create this lost masterpiece, giving us a tangible link to its glorious creation. Our journey continues back to the coast of Turkey, to the ancient city of Halicarnassus, now the modern resort town of Bodrum. It was here that a tomb so grand and extravagant was built that it gave us the modern word for any large, stately tomb mausoleum. This monumental structure was built for Mausolus, a ruler of a small kingdom called Caria, who reigned from 377 to 353 BC. Mausolus was an ambitious leader who lavished wealth on his capital city, Halicarnassus. He actually planned his own tomb long before his death, envisioning a final resting place that would be a testament to a legacy of power and grandeur for all time. The construction of the mausoleum began while Mausolus was still alive and was continued after his death by his sister and wife, Artemisia II. The tomb was so spectacular because it blended three distinct architectural styles: Greek, Lycian, and Egyptian. It stood on a massive stone base, topped with a colonnade of 36 Greek-style columns. Above the columns was a step pyramid roof, similar to Egyptian designs, which was crowned with a massive marble sculpture of a 4-horse chariot. The entire structure was about 148 feet tall and was adorned with incredible sculptures and friezes created by the most famous Greek artists of the era, depicting epic battles between Greeks, Amazons, and centaurs. The mausoleum was more than just a tomb, it was a work of art that looked more like a temple. Its lavish decorations and sheer size were meant to elevate Mausolus from a mere mortal ruler to a godlike hero. For over 1,500 years, it stood proudly overlooking the city of Halicarnassus, surviving invasions by Alexander the Great and attacks by pirates. It remained largely intact until a series of powerful earthquakes in the Middle Ages caused significant damage, bringing the roof and columns crashing down. Even in its ruined state, it must have remained an impressive sight for centuries. The final destruction of the mausoleum came in the 15th century. When the Knights of St. John of Malta arrived to fortify their castle in Bodrum, the castle of St. Peter, they discovered the ruins of the massive tomb. Seeing a ready-made quarry of high-quality stone, they dismantled the mausoleum block by block, using its polished marble to strengthen the castle walls. They even burned many of the marble sculptures to make lime plaster. Today, visitors to Bodrum Castle can still see polished green stones and marble blocks from the mausoleum embedded in its walls. At the original site, only the foundations remain, but some of the magnificent sculptures rescued in the 19th century are now on display at the British Museum in London. Our next destination is the Greek island of Rhodes, where a giant of the ancient world once stood guard. This was the Colossus of Rhodes, a massive bronze statue of the sun god Helios. It was erected around 280 BC to celebrate a great military victory. The people of Rhodes had just successfully defended their city against a year-long siege by a powerful enemy. To commemorate their survival and give thanks to their patron god, they decided to build a statue unlike any the world had ever seen. They financed its construction by selling the enemy's abandoned siege equipment, turning tools of war into a monument of peace and freedom. Standing approximately 110 feet tall, about the same height as the Statue of Liberty, from her feet to her torch, the Colossus was a breathtaking sight. It was constructed from bronze plates attached to an internal iron frame, with the hollow interior filled with stone blocks for stability. For a long time, popular images and stories depicted the Colossus straddling the harbor entrance, with ships sailing between its legs. However, modern engineers and historians agree that this would have been an impossible feat of construction for the time. It's now believed that the statue stood on a pedestal to one side of the harbor, a towering figure welcoming sailors into the city. The Colossus of Rhodes had the shortest life of all the seven wonders. It stood for only about 54 years. In 226 BC, a powerful earthquake struck the island of Rhodes, and the mighty statue snapped at its weakest point, the knees. It came crashing down onto the land, its massive bronze pieces scattered across the ground. An oracle advised the people of Rhodes not to rebuild it, so the fallen giant lay where it fell for over 800 years. Even in ruins, it was an incredible tourist attraction. The Roman writer Pliny the Elder wrote that few people could even wrap their arms around the statue's fallen thumb. The final chapter of the Colossus came in 654 AD, nearly 9 centuries after its fall. An Arab army captured the island of Rhodes and, according to historical accounts, they collected the scrap bronze from the fallen statue. The metal was melted down and sold to a merchant, who reportedly needed 900 camels to transport it all away. This act completely erased the last physical traces of the magnificent statue. Today, there is nothing left of the Colossus of Rhodes, no ruins, no fragments. Its location is still a subject of debate, leaving us with only the legend of the bronze giant that once greeted ships with its shining face. For our final wonder, we return to Egypt, but this time to the bustling port city of Alexandria. On the small island of Pharos, connected to the mainland by a causeway, stood the Lighthouse of Alexandria, also known as the Pharos of Alexandria. Built during the reigns of Ptolemy I and Ptolemy II around 280 BC, this was not just a lighthouse, it was the original, the model for all lighthouses to come. Its purpose was practical to guide ships safely into the busy harbor of Alexandria, one of the most important trading hubs in the ancient world. It served as a beacon for sailors for over 1,500 years. The lighthouse was an engineering marvel, estimated to be between 330 and 450 feet tall, making it one of the tallest man-made structures in the world for many centuries. It was built in 3 distinct sections. The lowest part was a massive square base, The middle section was octagonal and the top was a circular tower. At its very peak, a massive furnace burned day and night. Behind the fire, a large curved mirror, possibly made of polished bronze, reflected the light, making it visible to ships up to 35 miles away. During the day, the smoke from the fire served as a guide, making it a reliable beacon 24/7. The lighthouse was more than just a navigational aid. It was a symbol of Alexandria's power and ingenuity. Some legends even speak of its mirror being used as a weapon, capable of focusing the sun's rays to burn enemy ships as they approach the harbor. While this is likely an exaggeration, it speaks to the awe and mystery that surrounded the structure. For centuries, it withstood the forces of nature, a constant and reassuring presence on the horizon for countless sailors and merchants. It was a true wonder, combining practical function with breathtaking architectural beauty on an unprecedented scale. Like several other wonders, the Lighthouse of Alexandria was ultimately a victim of earthquakes. A series of tremors between the 10th and 14th centuries gradually chipped away at its structure. The first major earthquake in 956 AD caused some damage, but it was a catastrophic quake in 1303 that left it in ruins. Another in 1323 finished the job, and by the 15th century, the once mighty tower had crumbled completely into the sea. In 1480, the Sultan of Egypt built a defensive fort, the citadel of Qaitbay, on the site of the lighthouse, using some of its fallen stones. Today, archaeologists are exploring the waters around the fort, where they have discovered massive stone blocks and statues believed to be the submerged ruins of this legendary beacon. Though 6 of the 7 wonders have vanished from the face of the earth, their stories endure, echoing through the corridors of time. They continue to fascinate us for a simple reason: they represent the boundless ambition and creativity of the human spirit. These were not just buildings, they were dreams made real through stone, marble, gold, and bronze. Each wonder tells a story of a civilization reaching for greatness, pushing the limits of art, engineering, and faith. They built temples to honor their gods, tombs to defy mortality, and monuments to celebrate their triumphs. These structures were the ultimate expressions of their cultures. The mysteries that shroud the wonders are a huge part of their appeal. Did the Hanging Gardens of Babylon ever truly exist, or were they a beautiful fiction? Where was the Colossus of Rhodes really located? What happened to the magnificent statue of Zeus? These unanswered questions ignite our imaginations and drive us to keep searching for answers. They turn us all into explorers, sifting through ancient texts, archaeological clues, and educated guesses to piece together the puzzles of the past. The gaps in our knowledge are not frustrating. They are invitations to wonder, to speculate, and to dream of what might have been. The legacy of the 7 wonders lives on in our modern world in ways we might not even realize. The mausoleum at Halicarnassus gave us the word mausoleum for any grand tomb. The Lighthouse of Alexandria set the standard for every lighthouse that followed, saving countless lives at sea. The very idea of creating a Wonders of the World list has been repeated throughout history, with new lists being made for the modern world, the natural world, and beyond. These ancient structures set a benchmark for what is considered truly awe-inspiring, a standard against which we still measure our own greatest achievements. Ultimately, the 7 wonders of the ancient world remind us of both the power of human creation and the fragility of our creations. They show us that even the mightiest empires and the most magnificent structures can be brought down by time, nature, and human actions. Yet the fact that we still talk about them, study them, and are inspired by them thousands of years later is a testament to their true power. They are more than just lost buildings. They are timeless legends that prove that while stone may crumble, a great story, a grand idea can last forever, inspiring generation after generation to look at the world and wonder.